The biggest scam car guys fall for. Some of y'all watching this video are someone you know, and really a lot of you who may even fall for this in the future are actually paying almost twice the price of a car you just bought and aren't even aware of it. How is that the case? Well, let me give you 3 letters. APR. 29.99% APR. Whether it's TikTok or Instagram, you've likely seen memes about this circulate.
And Nissan is trying to survive on Altimas they financed to people with bad credit.
So what's the significance of the number in these 3 letters? Well, this is the highest legal interest rate most banks can charge you in the United States. But just because it's legal, that doesn't mean it's good for you and blah blah blah. Before I bore you any further, let me just shove numbers in your face to really prove a point of what I'm trying to say. This is what it's actually like witnessed. A lot of people just think that 29% interest, especially in APR's case, just means 29% on top of the list price. That is not true. APR is not a simple interest rate, and here I've just illustrated it for you. You're actually paying double. How did that happen? Well, because APR, like I said, is not a simple interest rate. It's actually an annualized interest rate, hence annual percentage rate. That's why it's called APR. Alright, so this is an APR calculator, and we're gonna go through this real quickly, just kind of for the memes to show you guys just how disgusting things get with 29% APR for those struggling to visualize it. So loan amount, $20,000, loan period, 72 months, loan interest rate, 29.99. This is something that you're probably going to see if you thought it was 30%. So if it worked like simple interest, it'd be $26,000 would be your result. If it was $10,000, it'd be $13,000 because $3,000 would be 30% of $10,000. As you can see here, you owe them 44 grand or total, or here you see the total of the actual 72 payments is around 43,000. And look at the amount that you originally financed. So you are essentially giving the bank more in interest than you are in principal. So let's see right here, 52% in interest, 45% in principal. Principal means what you're actually paying, like each monthly payments amount that's going towards owning the car. You are giving more money, like just throwing it in the water by just getting absolutely sharked by the bank than you are actually paying off your vehicle. Essentially, this doubles the price of cars. That's not actually how it works. It's a percentage, but basically, it's a very scary type of interest if you let it get ahead of you, but it is at the same time an interest that has existed for a while and can actually be relatively harmless in really low percentages. And believe it or not, it's easier than you think to get to the low percentages. So again, I'm gonna grab your attention by throwing more numbers and explaining them instantly to weaponize you guys. You guys know what credit score is, or at least I hope you do. If you're 18 years old and you don't know what credit score is, please go check it on literally anything like Experian or something. Most people who have absolutely like deep subprime credit, as we're looking right here on Experience Information Solutions, you still on a car should be getting 12 to 20% APR. You're probably like, whoa, Bladed, how the heck are people getting 29.99% if people who have absolute garbage credit or no credit are supposedly only supposed to be maxing out at 19.87%? I'll tell you why. They don't negotiate. Not because they're wimps, but because they don't understand how to negotiate APR to begin with, because they're not educated on interest. A lot of people, when they buy a car, negotiate way too hard on 3 things. It's list price, their monthly payment, and their down payment / trade-in. So some people trade in cars instead of using a down payment, whatever. Those are the 3 that they focus on. The 4th square they completely ignore, which is freaking APR. APR can invalidate all the hard work you've done in the other 3 squares. It will not matter how good of a negotiator you were in the other 3 aspects if they trick you into 29 or really any interest rate over 15%, because you will be paying. So I'm gonna go back through the APR calculator. This is how much a $40,000 car costs if you still get tricked into 15% APR. It is now a $67,000 car. And again, that is basically like 1/3 more than what you thought you were gonna pay. That is a whole extra $24,000 that you're basically paying half of the vehicle over. You're paying 150%, not 15%, 150% of the listed price. Because again, APR is not a simple interest rate. We should all know this much, so let's talk a little bit about APR. I said the lower the APR is, the better, sure, but let's say you have really awful credit and you can't really help but to just get awful APR. Well, if you can't change the APR to become lower, you know what you can change to become lower? What you're taking that APR on, aka the purchase price. So when you first get a credit card and you start building credit, would you really want to take like 15% APR on a $10,000 car or 15% APR on $50 of groceries? That should be be a rather obvious example about which one is going to be more expensive. Because in the case of groceries, first off, hopefully you just pay the groceries off the next month. If you pay your credit card literally instantly, you don't even see APR. So that's $50 is easier to pay off instantly than $10,000 is, especially for someone just building credit. So it's not as scary for small transactions because you can literally pay it off before the APR even kicks in, instead of $15,000 on a $10,000 car. So $5,000 of interest. You see what I'm getting at here? So you're stuck with horrible APR when you first build credit. But if you can't lower the APR, you can lower your purchase price. You can lower what you're putting that APR on. And this is the biggest kicker to everything I just told you. You know what's the funniest thing about building credit? You're probably like, oh, well, paying off that $10,000 car must show credit agencies how trustworthy I am, so I still build credit better. Nope, no, you don't. Buying groceries, like $50 of groceries every month on a credit card, will build your credit basically as quickly as buying a $10,000 car on credit. So again, let me ask you, which one would you rather take 15% APR on? The groceries. Buy groceries with it. Another way to avoid it is also to negotiate, so know your worth. If you have 400 or 600 credit score, you are still not a 29% APR territory. You are still valuable for 15% APR in the 400 credit score range. In the 600 credit score range, you are still valuable enough to get under 10%. You need to negotiate. The final way to avoid it is don't be married to the first car you see on the dealer lot. There are a lot of kids in Clout, because of Clout culture, they want the shiniest, best, highest level trim of a car. They're absolutely married to it. They get a nice paycheck out of college, maybe a starting salary of, 58 grand, really good starting salary, really solid, And none of that matters though, because they just immediately drown themselves, not just in student loan debt, but in car debt. Never be married to one car. Let's say you go to one dealership, they charge you 29% APR for a Dodge Challenger Hellcat. What do? You say, well, that's stupid. And they're like, well, we're not going to change it. Cool. Take all the papers they printed out for you and you bring it to another dealership with another Hellcat. Who cares if the Hellcat doesn't have the paint color you liked or doesn't have the specific wheels? Don't act like you're not going to change these things later with a wrap job and different wheels anyways. You should never be married to one specific vehicle during transactions. At the next dealership, let's say they're like, okay, you know what? We can do better than that dealership, because now you've brought out the competitive mindset. The moment you go to even one other dealership, you'd be surprised at how much prices drop just by you showing them the other dealership's papers. Because you can negotiate tooth and nail all you want, but your words, they're trained to fight against your words. They're also trained to fight against other dealerships' words. So they want to sell a car to you to beat that other dealership. So the second dealership's gonna be like, all right, Dodge Challenger Hellcat, here's the papers from the last dealership, 15% APR, beat that. Get me under 10. And they will look at the papers, they'll be like, we can get you under 10. Because they'll look at your credit score and be like, okay, he's worth at least 9.41% of 600 credit score. You are still taking way too high interest on a freaking car at the end of the day, but you are in a much better place, a significantly better place than you would be if you had just bought the car from the first dealership. To give you an example, at 480 credit score, here's what I got for my Mustang with a 12 grand down payment and $6,600 trade-in value on a $26,800 car. It was 5.3% with 480 credit. I got a 5.3%, not a 15%, not a 30%, a 5%. You know why? Because my down payment was exorbitantly high. So another way to fight these dealerships is to just give a higher down payments, because that negates a lot of your bad credit score actually. Because I've seen people who get 1/3 down who still get tricked into 29% APR. It generally blows my mind how that happens, because know your worth. If you're paying 20%, 30% down, you're a pretty good customer. You have a lot of negotiating power. They should not be letting you leave even with 10% APR. Now the other thing I'd like to note is that the Mustang that I bought was the 6th one that I looked at over the period of shopping for that car. I was not married to the first one that I looked at. Again, that's a very important factor to not get scammed and to not get played, is to bring papers over from previous negotiations and show it to each next dealership you go to until you finally reach a bottlenecking point where the numbers you compare to another dealership are basically the same and they straight up tell you, look, banks really can't do any better than this. For me, it came down to an orange Mustang GT or a deep impact blue California Special GT, both of which had basically the same costs, the same mileage, the same APR, the same everything. Because the 5th dealership I had visited, by the time I took their papers and gave it to the 6th dealership, they're like, look, we really can't do better than them. And because dealerships at that point will be honest to you, because they'll be like, wow, we genuinely cannot do better than what they've just offered you. And because they still want to make money. They don't want to undercut another dealership if it literally comes at the cost of them not making any money. So at that point I realized, okay, so the 5th dealership's offer to me was just as valid as the current one I'm at. Now I'm gonna pick the one based on what I like more. And I picked the blue Mustang because I like blue better than orange. at 640 credit score, which is still a really horrible credit score, I was able to get a C7 Z06. This one I put a 28 grand down payment on a $62,000 car, and I got a 4% APR. And again, with the Mustang, here's my full payment letter from GM Financial. I ended up paying it off within a year or so because I was self-aware of the fact that 4% APR is still, it's a good APR rate, all right? I could have just stuck through to the end of its payment, but I wanted to pay the car down faster because I just love the car and I wanted to keep it. And I intend to keep both of them for a long time because I don't believe in constantly putting myself in other loans when I actually like both vehicles I currently have, which is another trap that people in clout culture get constantly stuck in, is constantly taking new loans. Like, there are better ways to build credit than cars. So now that I've told you what to look for, how to avoid it, let's finally talk about the uplifting part of this video, which is how to get out of it. So let's say you're watching this video and you're like, you know what, Bladed, you've been speaking nothing but the truth. Ouch, this hurts actually because I'm one of these people. I don't like where I'm at. And guess what? You don't need to worry that much. There's still an escape. If you currently have much better credit than when you initially took out your auto loan, like 200 or more points, what you can do is you can refinance your car. Basically, let me just explain this. It's basically you go to a credit union or a reputable bank. I highly recommend you still make sure you do your research, make sure the bank is very reputable, and you have them redo your terms. And this may sound just as sketchy as a dealership, but there's actually incentive for these banks to greatly benefit and help you. When it comes to refinancing, basically what the bank does is they completely pay off the remainder of your loan because they have buttloads of money, right? They can literally just pull out. So let's say you took out a 20 grand loan on a 30 grand car. So you only put 10 grand down and then you got stuck in a 7-year loan with 29% APR. The bank is going to go to your current lien holder and just pay off the other 20 grand immediately because they have, they have the money to do that. Whereas that's something that the average person can't just throw out of nowhere. And then they will start a loan with you. So now that bank who just finished paying off your car owns your car now and not your previous lien holder. Basically, remember at the beginning of this video when I said dealerships will undercut each other to gain in this name of competition and gain money from each other? That's what banks are doing too. Banks also want to undercut the competition. Don't ever get complacent and say, oh, I'll just finish off the payment. The next car I buy, renegotiate APR. Don't. I just told you at the beginning of this video, when you pay 29% APR over 60, 72, even 84 months, you are basically buying that car twice over. If you are 2 years or even 1 year into your loan and your credit score has gone up by 100 or 200 or so points, refinance, take your life back. That's a 6-year loan period. If you're 1 or 2 years into it, let's say you're 2 years into it, you have 4 years left on that loan. Those 4 years left will basically make you pay twice of the vehicle's value. Or if you refinance right now with 200 better credit score after only being 2 years in that payment, you can literally gain back thousands in the next 4 years by not finishing your current loan and refinancing it. Pit these banks against each other. That's basically what refinancing does, is it makes these banks compete against each other and fighting for customers instead of just sitting on your laurels all the way to the end with one bank. You don't need to line the pockets of people who are already rich, especially for how hard you've worked for your money. Other than that though, if you enjoy cars and car content, make sure to subscribe and make sure to like this video. If you know someone who's suffering from a really horrible car loan, make sure to share this video to them. It's not a silver bullet. This video is not going to be the end-all be-all. You're still going to have to do a lot of research and understand how to get exactly out of your situation, but I want to point you in the right direction. I want to point you in the direction of refinancing and credit unions and other banks, but it's ultimately up to you to which one specifically is good for you. And you got to be careful. Remember, it's basically like going back to a dealership, but this time you're smart enough to renegotiate your terms and you have better credit now. But before I get carried away with restarting the video, I'm going to end it now. So thank you for watching. See y'all next time. Blade Angel out.